Hello dear ones, I am Life_Master. Tonight we will talk about becoming a person. Let's get started. We are all born with a desire to be good. I firmly believe this, but it can be very challenging to be good all the time. This is particularly so for children, who are relatively new to the whole concept of goodness, and who need all the help they can get as they struggle to define it. In our home, there is one question that is heard on almost a daily basis: who do you want to be? The choice speaks to character, not career, and the issue is the same for all of us. Do you want to be a good person, or do you want to be a bad person? Compared to this, every other choice in life is small potatoes. Your child could become president of the United States. He could become the wealthiest, most successful industrialist on the planet, but if he is a bad person, you will have failed as a parent. And that's the power of this conversation. You need to teach your child that every choice in life is subordinate to the moral choice. Greater than or equal to every choice in life is subordinate to the moral choice. Greater than or equal to. Let me give you an example of how we do this at our home. One night, not long ago, I was on my way to speak at Shalva, an organization that helps parents with handicapped children. They were holding a fundraiser in Long Island, and I was donating my time as a guest speaker because I really believe in the organization. Families are often torn asunder when they have a handicapped child, and Shalva tries to save both the child and the marriage. I was being taken out to Long Island by a driver, a fine man I'd met 2 or 3 times before, and I was sitting in back, reviewing my speech, when my cell phone rang. It was my second daughter, Chana, asking if I had time for her. I always try to make time for my kids, even when I don't have time, so I told her I had a minute or 2. She plunged right in. I spoke to Mommy, and Mommy, on becoming a person, said it's okay already. I want to dye my hair a bit of a darker shade of brown. It's not permanent, but I want to try it out. And I said, well, Chana, let's talk about this when I get home. I'm on my way to a charity event at the moment, and I'm trying to polish my speech. And Chana said, quite forcefully, no, Daddy. Please give me an answer. Mommy said it was okay. It's not permanent. I was distracted, and I repeated that I didn't want to get into it, telling Chana we would talk later. Not an hour later, while I was sitting at the fundraiser, in the middle of dinner, my cell phone rang. It was Chana again, pressing me for an answer, and I was so irritated that I took the easy way out and relented. Fine, I said. If you're going to push me, and if it really isn't permanent and no big deal, go ahead and do it. A couple of hours later, when I was on the way home, it occurred to me that the driver must be hungry. He had waited outside in the car while I'd been inside the estate of a Long Island billionaire, enjoying a 7-course meal. When we finally pulled up to my home, I asked the driver if he wanted to come in for a bite to eat. At first he refused, politely, but he finally relented, admitting that he really was quite hungry, and I brought him into the house. I found Chana at the computer, working on her homework, studying for a big test, and I asked her to go into the kitchen and prepare a little something for the driver. She heated up dinner, made him a nice salad, and waited on him. And after the driver had gone home, no longer hungry, I turned to her and told her that her hair looked nice. You really like it? She asked. Yes, I said. It's a beautiful shade of brown, although I still prefer your natural color. But there's something more important I want to talk to you about. I indicated the chair in front of me, and we sat facing each other. Let me tell you a story about 2 girls. The first girl is prepared to call her father and bug him over something superficial, shallow, and self-serving, even after she's been told that he is busy preparing for an important charity event. The other girl is at home, in front of her computer, studying for an important test, but when her father asks her to prepare dinner for a hungry stranger, she does it willingly and without complaint. This second girl treats the guest as if he were a visiting dignitary, and when her father sees this he is filled with pride. It is a story of two different girls, Channa. One girl, really, but with two totally different facets. Who do you think I'm talking about? And she smiled a little and said, me? On becoming a person. That's right, I said. You have to choose, Channa. One cancels the other out. The two girls inside you will forever battle for predominance, and you have to choose, which one of those girls do you want to be? The fact is, I know she wants to be the good girl, and that's not just a matter of opinion. All children want to be good. From time immemorial, civilization has focused much of its energy on preserving the innocence of the child, the innocence that is his birthright. Then Sigmund Freud came along, and everything he said about human development undermined the very notion of childhood innocence. Children were narcissistic and uncivilized, he suggested. They were sexual from birth. They had to be controlled. As these notions became more and more AC, greater than or equal to, kept it in modern soci. Children are blank. Eddie. People. Stopped. Slate on which we. Seeing. Children. As. Parents will do our. Good. And. Innocent. Writing. Suddenly. They. Were. Greater than or equal to. Bent on purging their. Children of all of these. Unseemly qualities, and protecting them from corrosive, external influences. But nothing could be more absurd. Children are neither good nor bad. 15. 10 Conversation need to have withourchild. They are a blank slate on which we parents will do our writing. Let me tell you another story about this all-important question. Do I want to be a good person or a bad person? This one involving my eldest daughter, Mushki. My wife Debbie is from Australia, and her parents still live there, and they don't get to see their grandchildren very often. As a result, there's a certain feeling of woundedness. They know our kids are closer to my own parents, who live here, in the United States, but that closeness is a result of geography, nothing else. Whenever they come to visit, however, about every 2 years, there's an initial sense of alienation and distance, and I can see it is very painful for them, and I feel it in my heart. Now, I love my mother-in-law, but she is the only child of Holocaust survivors, and she tends to be a little overprotective. I can understand the reasons for it, but my wife and I have worked hard at not being overprotective parents, and our kids have strong personalities and value their relative independence. One morning, my mother-in-law went into Mushki's room and asked her to do something. Mushka found the idea a bit babyish, and they get into an argument. My mother-in-law came down 16. On becoming a person. Stares in tears, and it was clear that she and Mushka had words. In her household, this is unacceptable. Our kids have been taught to respect their elders, and to respect their grandparents in particular. There are no exceptions to this rule. I could have stormed upstairs and confronted Mushki, "Don't ever again speak to your grandmother disrespectfully. Apologize to her at once." But I didn't do that. For me, it wasn't simply disrespect, but an act of insensitivity, and I wanted my daughter to understand how she had hurt her grandmother. I called Mushki downstairs and took her into the dining room. "Look," I said, "your grandmother is crying over this argument, and I want you to understand something. This goes beyond respect for your elders. This is a woman who loves you and lives very far away, and she feels this great distance between you, both geographic and emotional. And you are her first grandchild. You made her a grandmother. So when she comes here and asks you to do something, and you find it a bit babyish, do it anyway. Humor her. Being a good person is not a choice we make when it's convenient. It's a choice we make even when we feel uncomfortable, or slightly degraded, by the moral choice. My daughter said nothing, so I pressed on. Who do you want to be, Mushki? Do you want to be the kind of person who is always healing a heart, who is always mending the wounds of a broken heart, or do you want to be someone who fragments a human heart? You choose. You can be one or the other, but you can't be both. Which will it be? I could have approached our talk somewhat differently. I could have simply asked my daughter to apologize to her grandmother, which is the common approach, but I don't think that makes for adequate parenting. That approach would have made her a passive listener. She would have obeyed, and we would have been done with it, but she would have learned nothing. Children know right from wrong. They have an innate sense of justice. What you hear from them most often is, "That's not fair. She got a bigger piece of chocolate." Or, "His present cost more." Parents need to listen to that. Kids know the difference. They instinctively feel when something is fair, and when it's unfair. And if they don't know it, you must help them figure it out for themselves. Telling a child how to behave is not nearly as effective as inspiring him with a sense of what he wants to be. Not do, but be. A child who is asked to think about the type of person he wants to be will begin changing on his own, with 18. On becoming a person. Out nagging and prodding. But you have to inspire him to do so. Thank you, listeners. Good night.